Hello everyone, welcome to the session Programming for Problem Solving. Myself Navya. I'm an assistant professor from the Department of CSIT, MLR Institutions of Technology. In this session, we are going to see the selection structures and it was a part 1. Overview of this section. First, we have to see what is the control structures in C and what are selection statements, types of selection statements in that. So, coming to the control structures. So, what is meant by control structures? Control structures in C programming are used to dictate the flow execution of program. So, they allow developers to make decisions, repeat some tasks or control the sequence of operations. So, here is an overview of main types. The control statements was divided into 3. The conditional statements or decision control statements or selection structures. And the second statements are iteration statements or repetition statements, or you can call it as loops. And third statements are jump control statements. So the conditional statements or selection statements or decision statements was divided into 3 types: if else, nested if, as well as switch case, or we can call together as if statements and switch cases. And the loop control statements or iteration statements was divided into 3: while, do while and for, and jump control statements, break and continue. For the next 3 sessions, we are going to discuss all these things one by one. So, that's all about control structures. In order to control the flow of execution, sometimes you might have to take some decisions, or sometimes you might want to repeat something for n number of times. So, similarly, in order to do such actions, we are going to use this control structures in the same way in the program. Coming to the selection statements. So, which we can call it as decision statements, or we can call it as selection structures, or we can call it as conditional statements. Anything is same. So, decision making statements are the statements used to verify a condition and decide whether a block of statements gets executed or not based on the condition result. So, for example, let me give you an example. If I'm in some area, okay, in a Hyderabad, for example, I just want to go for a Mumbai or Bombay. On which way I have to choose? I have a number of directions. Which way I have to choose? So, whether based on my particular destination, whether I have to go to left or right, that should be there. So, similarly, in real life itself, we are going to take n number of decisions, right? So, similarly, in C programming also, sometimes you might get the situations not in a way like flow of executions, like in a sequence way. Sometimes you might want to take the decision somewhere. So, in such cases, we are going to use this decision statements. So, in C programming, we are having 2 decision making statements, which is if statement and switch statements. So, in the session, we are going to see some of the statements in if. So, coming to the if statements. In the if statements are used to make decisions based on the condition. So, what the if statement verifies the given condition first and then decides whether which statements has to be executed. So, this if statement was furtherly divided into 4 again. The simple if statement, if else statement, nested if statement, and we will call it as else if statement, as called as else if ladder. So, these are the 4 statements we are going to see. So, coming to the simple if statement, let us go with a small example first. If a lady was going to a fruit shop, okay, and she want to buy if apples are available. So, she want to buy apples. So, they were going to the fruit shop and she was asking for the apples, whether apples are available or not. So, the particular person, the shopkeeper, was saying he has, other than apples, he has other fruits, right? So, he has said it is out of stock. If the apples are available, she will buy, or she will purchase, or she will take that apples to her home, or else she will leave. Come. So, simple if is nothing but, in all programming languages, why this if statement is important first. So, all programming languages enable you to make decisions, and in this, whether if a certain course of action depending on whether particular condition is met. If the particular condition is met, it will exist. If the apples are there in the shop, she will take. That's it. So this is what the programming languages give their intelligence. So here, coming to the definition and syntax. C uses the keyword if. If is a keyword in order to execute a set of statements when logical condition is true. So if the condition is false, then it will skip the statement within the block. If statement is also known as one-way decision statement. The simple if statement is also known as one-way decision statement. The syntax for this is if condition. If this condition is true, it will execute this block of statements. If the condition is false, simply it will skip these statements and it will go with the other statements. So, let us go with a small example. Simple if statement. I am taking a number here. I am checking whether it is an even number. So, how to check? How can you say whether the given number is an even number? If a given number is divided by 2, if the remainder value is 0, then it is said to be an even number. So, in order to calculate the remainder value, we use modulus operator, right? So, we are going with if when I divide a number with 2, if the remainder value is 0, then only I can say it's an even number. Right? Simply I am printing even. So, this is a if statement. Okay. Printf. End of the program. Let us check. So, it's a simple if statement. So, I am taking a value and I will read the value from the user. If I divide the value with 2, then if the remainder is 0, then I will print it's an even number. Or else directly it will print end of the program. When I compile this, for example, if I give the value 8, see even and I has got end of the program also. Okay, let me take in a new line. Okay, when I give the odd number for 9, for example, what happened? In the previously, when I give 8, even has been printed, end of the program also printed. But when it comes to 9, it does not print it even. If the condition is true, then only it will print the values under this block. If the condition is false, it simply skips these statements and it will go to the remaining statements, which is it has been printed end of the program. This is how the simple if statements works. Simply the girl has went for the shop. If the apples are available, she will grab the apples, else she will leave silently. That is what the simple if statement. The same statement what extended to if else statement. So she was asking for the apples. If apples are available, she will take the apples, else she will go for the oranges. So this is how. So why this if else? In previous simple if the condition is true, it will execute the block of statement. If the condition is false, simply it will skip. When it comes to the if else, the alternative result. So if condition is true, one has to be executed. If condition is false, another thing has to be executed. So why if else statement means, as been seen, if statement allows you to run a block of code if an expression evaluates to true. If the expression evaluates to false, the code will get skipped simply. Thus we can enhance the decision process by adding else statement to an if construction. Let us run the block of code if the expression is true and a different block of code if expression is false. We are going to write the code for code if the expression is true, as well as a block of code if expression is false in this case. So this is a syntax. C uses the keywords called if and else here, and to order to execute a set of statements, either the logical condition is true or false. So if the condition is true, it will execute the statements under if condition. If the condition is false, it will execute the statements under else block. So this is the syntax. If the condition is true, it will if the condition is true, it will execute this block of statements. If the condition is false, it will skip these statements and it will execute the else block statement. Let us go with a small example. Same example we will see. If the number is even, we have seen. Simply, we'll go with the else statement. Else odd. When I run this, if I give the value is 8, so it will print even. If I give 9, so it has print odd. So when I give 8 value, it was printed only even value, which means if this condition is true, only this statement will be executed, this will be skipped. If this condition is false, it will get skipped and only this will be executed. So if the condition is true, it will execute the statements under if block. If the condition is false, the statements will be executed under else block. This is how the if else will work. So in this session, we have seen what is meant by control structures. In order to control the statements for the program, we are going to use the control structures. Control structures are divided into 3. First one is selection structures or decision structures or decision statements or conditional statements. Later on, this statement was divided into again 2 if statements as well as switch statement. Later on, if statement was divided into again 4 types. One is simple if else, nested if, else if ladder. And coming to the second part is repetition statements, or you can call it as loops. Loops are divided into again 3, which is while loop, do while loop and for loop. And third control statements are jump control statements. These are again divided into 2, break and continue. So this is what we have seen in the first part. And the next part, we went through the selection statements, simple if statement. So simple if statement, if a condition is true, it will execute the statements under block. If the condition is false, it will skip the statements. So the syntax would be like, if is a keyword, you have to write in the small letters only, and a block of statements. If this condition is true, it will execute these statements, or else simply it will skip those statements. Later on, this extended to if else statement. The same syntax, if condition is true, the same, it will execute this block of statements. If the condition is false, in this, it will skip the statements, nothing is there. But here it's an alternative. The statements under else condition will be executed. If this condition is true, it will execute these statements. If this condition is false, it will execute these statements. But remember one thing, when it comes to if else statements, only one block of statements will be executed, either if block statements or else block statements. No, these two statements will not execute together. So this was a thing we have learned in this session. Thank you everyone.